Twitter or something, but that's fine. Oh,
Yep.
Live stream. This is amazing. Hang on, I just showed me they're buying the commissioner. They could collect a hawk. Someone might go there. Because they listen to
And we're coming to you this afternoon live from Mudgee for the next hour. A heap of guests coming up. We'll be talking to Peter Mortimer. We'll be hearing from Brad Fittler, the coach of the City team. And our first guest, though, is the chairman of the ARL Commission, John Grant. And John, one of the things that we've been talking about today a lot is, this is great, we're here, we're loving City Country, is it going to happen again?
Hi Debbie, how are you? Lovely to get a good question first up. Look, it's a fantastic carnival today. We put a lot of work into this, and as you're well aware, the country rugby league guys have certainly given us all the information that we need. We'll see how today goes. You'd have to say this weekend's been fantastic though. You know, when you think about the test match on Friday night, the under-20 State of Origin game last night, this game today with an NRL free weekend, it seems to work really, really well for the players and for the whole promotion of it.
What's the argument for getting rid of the Anzac Test and City Country? What's that argument?
I don't think there is an argument. You know, I think there's a lot of discussion about what might happen to it. I don't think there's an argument for it or against it. Either way, I think we'll weigh up our options when we consider the schedule for next year. That'll be done in the next 2 to 3 months. But we're very mindful of the factors that play into that. You know, it's number one, it's the representative game of the pinnacle representative game for the players who are playing this game, so that's a very big thing. Number two, it's very important for New Zealand in terms of promoting their league and also getting funds into their coffers. And number three, it's the first rep game to sort of kick things off. But as to the other pros and cons of whether that plays out like that the next year, let's just wait and see what the plan shows.
Doesn't sound like there's many cons and lots of pros.
Well, I think there is. Well, the only cons, if you think about it, you know, there's another argument that says, you know, we should put some logic into the way that our players grow through a year. So they should play games that then lead to other games that then lead to other games, and that logic would then say that, you know, you have a fixture like today, the City Country game, and then you have a State of Origin, and you have a Test match.
But the last time we did that, the problem was that Australia were too well prepared and they beat England or Great Britain by 60 points, and that's why we moved it to start with.
There's reasons both ways. You know, great, that's all good, all of that's good stuff, so we'll take all of that into account and see how. The other thing, of course, is to fit in, because all the season does get longer, and you know, there's enough players out there who are reminding me already that, you know, the way that their legs feel is a very important part to the way the game's played on the field, and I think we're very sympathetic with that too.
John, if you want, the international game as well flourishes, or it will flourish if you want a bit of oxygen. Have you looked at outside of Australia and New Zealand, other developing nations games as well?
Daniel, I think your point's well made, you know, and you get a much stronger argument along those lines for not other countries other than Australia and New Zealand. You know, so to go and talk to the Brits and go and talk to the French, don't be saying exactly that in a more strenuous way. And you know, whether or not and what form oxygen can be given to that competition, that remains a real responsibility of the International Federation. And I go to the next meeting, my first meeting of the International Board next week, and I'll understand a little more about it and understand where their priorities are and start injecting our priorities into that as well. So we'll see what happens, but you know, we should make the international game very important. That's the bottom line.
And last night's game at Penrith, the under-20s Origin fixture, was that well received? And if you want, the Commission were very happy with the way it progressed last night and was undertaken.
Yeah, it was a first-up fixture. I thought the game, you know, while it had some errors, and these are young men, you know, it was extremely vigorous if you saw the game. You know, I mean, it was a very, very hard game, and you know, you could say worthy of a State of Origin tag. I will certainly debate the dressing rooms afterwards, and those boys felt they were playing State of Origin. You know, so I went around and spoke to the Queensland guys, and they lost. You know, and they really felt like they lost. 3 tries each, but they lost the game.
You saw that on the field after the game, the celebration right from the Blues.
Yeah, I went into the Blues dressing room, and they won State of Origin. You know? So this is we're first-time fixture, not a lot of promotion behind it, organising a fairly short period of time, and I thought with all those things taken into account, it's fantastic. The proof of the pudding, of course, is in how you roll this out over the coming years and how that builds. So that would be the sort of view that we have at the moment.
Is there any consideration to coming up with other rep games that could fit into a weekend like this?
It's an interesting thought, Debbie, isn't it? You know, and it's also interesting to think outside of the context of New South Wales too about extending it from that point of view. And again, it comes back to the discussion we were having earlier about how you schedule things next year. I think let's just wait and see how today goes. Let's see the sort of reception we get.
But just say generally the concept of standalone weekends of representative football.
I know the concept, the people that it matters to, the players think it's fantastic. The coaches think it's fantastic.
The broadcasters happy?
I guess we'll know after today. So far they seem to be pretty happy, which is a good thing. The sponsors are really pleased with it. So if you you've got to, it's this whole thing: how much football do you play?
Yeah, how long is the season?
And over what period you play it, and we've got to balance all those things out with that in mind. But standalone weekends, you'd have to say, so far this weekend has been very successful. And then you've seen the media around. The media's been terrific. They've really been supportive of it, which has been fantastic, and that's created a level of interest, which is what we want to see.
I'm sure Daniel would agree, as Samoa coach, that it would be ideal to see more teams, representative teams, playing this weekend. As FIFA do, they pause their club competitions everywhere the same weekend, and everyone goes and represents their country. That would be the ideal situation, wouldn't it? I mean, that would be a wonderful.
It could be the ideal situation, yeah, that's exactly
and
right.
Steve's planning to travel to all of them in the one weekend.
We need a bit of astral projection.
John, one of the things that has, it's odd, because it's been a representative week, there haven't been as many games to preview, and it almost seems to me a lot of the newspaper talk, in the Telegraph in particular this week, has really focused on what's wrong with the game and the pace of the game, and what's wrong with the wrestling and the line speed. Did that come up in your discussions the other night with the Commission?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, we did have a meeting in Auckland, full-day meeting, which we've been having now since we formed, only 10 weeks ago, by the way. It's really interesting to think this Commission's only been formed for 10 weeks. It seems like, for us certainly, it must be for you guys a lot longer. But did that come up? Look, clearly we've got two agendas. We've got what we call a sort of mid to long-term agenda, which is really strategically, how do you make sure this game can be increasingly growing and be successful, and that's a whole bunch of long-term plays. But we've got to handle the day-to-day issue as well. The subjects of how you handle the quote-unquote wrestling, how you handle the on-the-field speed of the game. That's something that we pay attention to, and you would have seen David Gale's comments to Bill Harry anyway around this. And I think that's what the next weekend brings. But look, the other side of this is that the commentators who are sort of supporting what the media was talking about, they're good commentators, so you've got to pay attention to the people who have been in this game for a long, long time, filter out any sort of vested interest that everyone has in some way, but fill that out and deal with what the facts are. I think this is no doubt this last week's support some attention to something that we can improve.
John, Gold Coast, it was reported this week that if the Commission was to give any extra funding to the Titans, that Michael Searle's role in the club would be decreased significantly. Is that accurate? Is that what the situation is? And how long do you expect to wait before there's a final decision in the case of the Titans?
Oh, look, we've said everything that we can say at the moment about the Titans. It's a really complex issue. What I was correctly quoted on, because we issued the media release, is that the Titans deserve the right to work their own situation out, and we need to support them in every aspect of doing that. But at the end of the day, if a club can't survive, and it needs the Commission to step in from a funding point of view, then that comes with a price. And whatever that price is, so the conjecture about what Michael's role might be is a big point, but the point is it will come with a price which has to be reasonably significant, because other clubs might see it in the same fashion.
I just wanted to go back. I appreciate all the different topics that you're handling. When you talk long range, how long is your strategic thinking for, in comparison to other sports models around the world? I'm curious, what's the Commission's long term? It's
a really good question, Daniel, because it's built around finances. And the funding injections, if you like, are built around broadcast rights essentially. Now we've got very strong revenues of growing outside of broadcast rights, but broadcast rights is the big number in the middle of all of that. So you can only do stuff if you've got money to support it. So our plans, therefore, extend beyond the next broadcast rights. So we're looking at this broadcast rights with a view to the next broadcast rights that will be built through. So you have to say, therefore, we're in a 3 to 6 year time frame. Midway through the next broadcast rights and into the next broadcast rights after that.
John Grant, there's a million topics about rugby league that we could discuss with you, but we do have limited time, and I'm sure you have other commitments as well. But thank you very much for coming along and being part of the Hit Up today and answering some of the questions we had. But hopefully we'll get you back some other time to at least start on some of the others.
Thanks very much, Debbie, and thanks very much, Daniel and Steve.
You can do 12 to 2 every Sunday. Still wouldn't run out of things to talk about.
You're on the Hit Up with Daniel Anderson, Debbie Spillane, Steve Bascord, and we've just been speaking to the